It kind of costs a lot to live right now, but maybe we can save money in the care for our reptiles. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle, and this is Elle's Reptiles. The price of things currently is very expensive, but we still obviously have to take care of our reptiles. So let's talk about some money-saving tips in caring for those reptiles. Before we get started, this week's video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude, so make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out all about this awesome company. Let's get started. So the very first one I want to talk about, and a pretty big one, is buying things from places like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or even yard sales, garage sales. Buying used items is going to obviously be a lot less expensive than buying brand new items. This is especially true when we are looking at things like tanks. Tanks are expensive, and so if you go to a pet store, especially like a chain pet store, and you buy a brand new tank, it could cost hundreds of dollars. If you go to Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or yard sales, garage sales, whatever, you go and try to find one that is used, you are going to pay a fraction of the cost of that item new. And a lot of times you can also find them for $30, $40, $50, but that come with everything else. So the screen lid might be included, or domes, or sometimes even like water bowls or a few rock decorations are included. That is a fantastic deal. Obviously, if you are going this route, make sure you thoroughly clean and disinfect everything that comes with that tank. If for some reason there is substrate left over in there, obviously make sure to toss that out. Don't reuse that substrate, because we have absolutely no idea what happened to the animal that was in there. We don't know if that animal was sick. We don't know if there could be parasites or whatever in that tank. So just make sure you thoroughly disinfect it. It's going to be a little extra work, but it's going to save you a whole lot of money. Next up is breeding your own feeders. So this is super easy for some feeders. For some other feeders, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You can breed your own mealworms, you can breed your own superworms, you can breed your own dubia roaches. You could technically breed anything, but mealworms are super easy to breed. Superworms a little bit more difficult, but they're still pretty easy to breed. Dubia roaches, super easy to breed. With mealworms, you just don't refrigerate them. Just stick them in a bigger container with a bunch of oats or wheat bran, row vegetable scraps. If you are feeding vegetables to your bearded dragon, maybe you take the stems off of those vegetables, throw those to the mealworms. After a short amount of time, you'll see beetles in there, and then from those beetles, they'll breed. You won't really notice that they breed until one day you're sifting around in that container and there's a bunch of tiny little baby worms in there. Super easy, and it gives you a pretty constant supply of mealworms. Things like superworms are a little bit more difficult to breed because superworms will not turn into the beetles if they are around other superworms, so you actually have to separate them out. And then they'll become beetles. Once they become beetles, you can throw them back together and they will have other superworms. Dubia roaches, once you have some adult dubia roaches, you throw them into a container, put some heat on the side, a heat pad on the side of that container, and provide them with food and water. Of course, all of them need to be provided with food and water, gut loading, and they will breed. You'll have a bunch of little baby dubia roaches in no time. This is super easy and saves you a lot of money. If your mealworms aren't producing like they should be, your dubia roaches aren't producing fast enough, you're still gonna have to supplementally buy bugs. It just is going to save you money. Next up, filling those tanks. Let's talk about free enrichment ideas. All reptiles need enrichment. They need things to do in those tanks. And if you are going to pet stores and buying the driftwood or the decorations and stuff they sell there, that gets very expensive very quickly. One large piece of driftwood from those places is usually about $30. Large rocks can be $20. It gets very expensive. If it is at all possible for you, you can go to local rivers, local forests, and find driftwood. And as I always say, huge disclaimer here, you need to check with that local forest, that local area, to make sure that it is okay before you take things like this, because we don't want to steal from those forests, and we also want to make sure that taking that piece of driftwood isn't going to mess up the habitat. But if you do that, make sure that you are properly sanitizing that item. You can use a watered down bleach solution to do this if the pieces are large, or you can boil them on your stove. You can bake them in the oven at the lowest possible temperature for like 30 straight minutes. Make sure that they are properly sanitized. Huge thing, if you are using rocks, do not put rocks in the oven. I should have put that earlier when we were talking about the oven. Don't put rocks in the oven, they will explode. You can just Google it and there's a whole bunch of information there on how to sanitize those things. Also, just taking your reptile out of that tank. I know I've done multiple enrichment videos lately, but taking your reptile out of their tank is going to be a way to provide them with free enrichment. If you're just needing to provide your animal with something extra to do, take them out of the tank, let them hang out with you while you do things like watching TV or playing games or whatever, or take them outside if it's safe. Those are both free options that allow your animal to have something to do and a new place to explore. Next up is buying things like spray bottles and thermostats and domes and dimmer switches and all of those things not from pet stores. So in every video where I'm building things and in most videos where I'm just talking about items, I will link them in my description below. And if you notice, a lot of those things aren't actually reptile related things. The spray bottles that I always link, they are not reptile branded spray bottles. Usually I'll link a light dome with a dimmer switch on it, and then I'll also link a very inexpensive dimmer switch, because you can buy almost all these things from places like Home Depot and Lowe's and Walmart, Amazon, places that aren't pet stores, and once that pet store branding goes on that item, it's going to double and triple in price. So if you buy a small little spray bottle from a pet store, I think they're like $10, $15, where I have a gallon spray bottle from Walmart that was about $10. Buying thermostats, I've honestly never seen a thermostat in a chain pet store here. They always have the rheostats, but that rheostat is like $20, $30, or you could buy an actual programmable thermostat on Amazon for like $20. You can also get domes. You can buy domes from any hardware store. This can even go for things like substrates. If you are using a loose substrate or you are making your own bioactive substrate and you need something like Reptisoil. Reptisoil is going to be $10, $15 for a bag about this big, where you can go to a hardware store and buy a bag of organic topsoil that's about this big for about $2 or $3. There is so much money to be saved here in just not buying pet branded items. And the last one we're going to talk about is the dollar store at Dollar Tree. You can make wet hides or really any kind of hides from Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree also has fake plants. Those fake plants that you spend $5 to $8 on a thing this big, you can go to the Dollar Tree and buy a whole bunch of $1 plants to throw into your tank. For those hides specifically, you can go to the Tupperware section and you just grab a little Tupperware and cut a little door and throw some moss or wet paper towels if you're just trying to use something that you have on hand. If you are using wet paper towels though, make sure that you are changing them often because they will mold when they are just constantly wet. And now you have a wet hide. I noticed that Snake Discovery uses the toolboxes from the Dollar Tree for the snake hide for bigger hides. Same exact thing, just cuts a door out. Make sure that there's no sharp edges, obviously, and then your snake or bigger lizard can go into that toolbox. And the toolboxes are super cool too because they're black. So it also is providing security because you can't see into it, they can't see out of it. Dollar Tree also often sells little terrarium globes, kind of like the one I have hanging in Dexter's tank. Those are really cool for your arboreal animals like crested geckos, even amphibians, because they can climb up into them. You can also put sphagnum moss in those and turn it into a wet hide if you just wanted to, or just to give them somewhere to sit in that globe. And also from Dollar Trees or dollar stores, a lot of times you can also buy like terracotta pots, like small little pots. Those are fantastic for hides. A lot of people will actually break those and use like the pieces for a hide. They'll use like half of a pot. Obviously, again, make sure there's no sharp pieces, but there are so many $1 options at the Dollar Tree for your animals if you are looking for inexpensive options. Just as an honorable mention here, I just want to talk quickly about CareCredit. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by them, and I'm not telling you to mess up your credit or anything to get this card, but CareCredit is just a credit card that you can use at most vets, and you can also use it for yourself. You can use it at dentist office and eye doctors, normal doctors' offices. It's just super helpful. It's a super helpful emergency fund just in case anything scary comes up with your animal. It provides such a peace of mind for scary events. It sounds like I'm doing an ad read. I understand that. I promise I'm not doing an ad read, but I did want to bring that up just as an option if you need it, just in case. But that is all that I have for this video. If you have any ideas of how to save money, make sure to comment those ideas down below. This video is actually a part 2 to a video I did about a little over 3 years ago called Reptile Hacks, tips to save money. I'll leave that here if you wanted more ideas. Some of those we just covered in this video, but there are more things there because there's 10 of them there. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude. The Dubia Dude is a wonderful place to get dubia roaches delivered directly to your house. Dubia roaches are an awesome feeder, and speaking of saving money, you actually have to feed less dubia roaches to your animals than you would crickets because they are more filling and more nutritious than crickets are, so you're actually buying less feeders to feed your animal as opposed to, again, something like crickets or even mealworms. They are super easy to keep. You keep them in a cheap plastic container and throw vegetable scraps in there. That's it. You can even use like toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls. Just throw old ones in there and that gives them somewhere to hide, and you have an inexpensive setup for dubia roaches. Absolutely love this feeder. I cannot recommend it enough for your animals. Make sure that if you do order from thedubiadude.com, you use the code Elle to save 10% off of that entire order. Thank you so much to the Dubia Dude for sponsoring this video. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on social, like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. I've been doing shorts on Wednesdays, and you guys seem to be liking those, so those will still continue to come occasionally. This week's Instagram shoutout is here, and this week's subscriber shoutout is here. Thank you guys both so much for liking and subscribing and following and sharing and commenting and all of that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Click, click. Yes. Towels. This week we are doing actually, right now, so, but we still need to, why is this facing that? Okay. So, just make sure you thoroughly listen. This, this is super easy and saves you a lot of money because you can buy almost all of these things. And if you, because you can make sure that you are checking the wattage, voltage,